This is Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course. Let's get started. So in this video, you're going to learn everything you need to know about Google Earth. Step 1 is how to access it. Just go to earth.google.com and sign into your Google account, and this is where you'll find yourself. And in this first segment of Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course, we're going to start by focusing just on searching Google Earth and navigating around in Google Earth. And what is Google Earth? It's basically a 3D model of the Earth. I can click and drag the Earth to look at different parts of it. I can even click and drag and then let go of the mouse to kind of spin the Earth around a little bit. If I want to take a closer look at any particular part of the Earth, I can just double click on the exact location that I want to look at more closely. And I can do that several times as I get closer and closer to the place that I'm interested in. I can also use the scroll wheel on the mouse to do the same thing, but a little bit faster, perhaps. Now, as I zoom in on a particular area in Google Earth, hopefully you can see that the visuals in Google Earth are a combination of aerial photography, some of which is from satellites, I believe, and then also mixed with 3D models. Now, in addition to just zooming in by double-clicking or using the scroll wheel, there are other ways that I can navigate around the Earth. For example, I can go here to the upper left to search Google Earth. Let's say I'm interested in New Zealand. I can tap enter and Google Earth will kind of fly me virtually to New Zealand. And I can be as specific as I want to be. For example, I could type in Napier, New Zealand to zoom in on that exact town. I can even search for famous landmarks like the Eiffel Tower, and it will fly me to the famous landmark. And you can even put in exact addresses, a street address, an address of a house, and just tap enter after you enter that address, and it will fly you to that specific house that you're looking for. Now, there are other tools that I have as I'm navigating around in Google Earth. For example, if I zoom into or search for a city or a town that has streets, I can then click and drag this little gentleman and drop him onto one of the city streets. And look what happens. When I release the mouse button, I am pulled onto the city into what's called Street View. Now I can click and drag and look around this city or town. I can even navigate a little bit through the town. If I click on this arrow, I will move down the street a ways, and I can continue to do that and then look around, get a sense of what other countries or cities or neighborhoods actually look like. When you're ready to get back to the full Google Earth experience, just click this arrow in the upper left to exit Street View, and you're back in the regular Google Earth. Next to Street View, we have another tool that will show your current location. Now, I don't really want to do this, but if you do, you would need to allow just this once, or on every visit, or never. In my case, I think I'll choose never, but that can be a handy tool for you to see how your current location relates to the location that you're looking at. Another tool we have here is the 2D or 3D view button. So for me, it said 2D and I clicked it, and now I'm in two-dimensional view. If I want to now get into the third-dimensional view, I click on the button again, and it tilts the view so that I can see as if I were, let's say, in a helicopter or in an airplane, kind of looking at an angle down at the Earth. And you'll notice that some buildings in Google Earth actually have a 3D representation of them. So if I go back up here and search for, let's say, Manhattan and fly there, you'll see that with the 3D view activated, if I zoom in, notice what I see. All sorts of buildings come in 3D. Now, at first, they don't look very good. They're kind of pixelated and just not very precise. But the longer you give Google Earth to process all of these 3D models, the better they start to look. And you can really get a very accurate sense of what the buildings look like in 3 dimensions. So that's the 2D or 3D button. You can switch back and forth between the two views. We also have what looks like a compass. If you click on the compass, this allows you to control the tilt of the view kind of similar to the 2D, 3D button in a way, but this gives me even more control. And then also you can adjust the heading. Am I heading north or south or east or west? You can adjust that here. At any point, if you get confused, you can just click Reset to North. Now I'm heading north. I'm going to X out of that pop-up. We've looked at these 4 tools. The last tool is pretty self-explanatory. It's zoom out and zoom in. So it does the same basic thing as the scroll wheel and also as double clicking, at least when it comes to zooming in. In this next segment of Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course, we're going to look at the layers options. Layers can bring you even more information about the Earth to make it more interesting and educational. Now, as you're navigating in Google Earth, you can affect how Google Earth looks, how you experience it, really. If you look here at the lower left, there's a layers button, and you can decide to see basically a clean view of the Earth. No borders, labels, places, or roads. If I turn that off, notice what you get. You get all these pop-ups, you get little place marks pointing out important places, landmarks, museums, post offices, parks, things like that. So some people prefer the clean view. And if I zoom out, you'll notice that the clean view now does not show borders. It's just a natural view of the Earth. If I go back into the layers, I can switch back to the exploration view, which does include labels and borders. I could switch to everything. This will give me information about water, transit information, and more. Now, we do have a couple of other layer options. We can choose to make it custom. Choose your own look and feel. So here I can say, I don't want clouds included. I maybe want places, and which places. I can specify, if I uncheck all of places, I can specify specific things, attractions, but maybe no sports. So I can customize this as needed to customize specifically what I want to see. Now, there are additional layers that we can turn on, including 3D buildings, and we've looked at those already. Jumping back to Manhattan, if you recall, there are so many buildings in Manhattan, but if I go to layers, I can turn off the 3D buildings and everything becomes flat. Now, why would you want to do that? For one, if you have so many 3D buildings being loaded into your browser, it can slow down the experience a little bit. And sometimes it just obscures the real information that you're looking for. In most cases, I leave it on, but it is good to know that I can turn off 3D buildings if I want to. Other additional layers I can activate include time-lapse. And look at this. You can activate this global time-lapse, a video of the planet from 1984 to today. Let's take a look. So here we have Manhattan in 1992, 94, 95. Buildings are appearing. It's kind of hard to get a true sense of what's happening here, but this timeline is trying to show me buildings that have appeared, changes that have happened to a city or any place over time, and it's just going to continue to update and change until we get to the current year, and then it loops back. So that's time-lapse. That's kind of fun. Let's try another layer. In addition to time-lapse, I can turn on photos. This will showcase photos of the part of Google Earth that I'm currently looking at. So let's say I'm really interested in this location here. Look at all these photos that have been taken. I can click on one of those photos to open it up and see what the photograph was taken of. I can click back to get out of it again, and then I could click on another photograph and then click this arrow to get back. So these additional layers are really wonderful opportunities to learn even more about the Earth from inside Google Earth. Additionally, I can add 3D coverage images. This will bring out even more of the 3D objects, including things like trees, if available. And if I zoom out, sometimes you can see that a little bit better, where there's updated 3D coverage. You can also turn on updated imagery that, again, points out where certain images are available. In this case, updated imagery is available. If I turn that off again, you'll see that the map changes. We can also turn on grid lines, latitude and longitude. And if I zoom out now and go back and tilt this back to the normal view, you'll see latitude and longitude lines, which can really be helpful as I'm teaching or learning about the Earth. And it looks just beautiful. I love the effect of the latitude and longitude lines and the detailed information. It's really cool. Jumping back to layers, the last option we have is animated clouds. If you turn on animated clouds, look what you get. you can zoom in a little bit and kind of see the clouds moving and shifting the way they do in real life. Now, if you zoom out too far, you may not notice that, and if you zoom in too close, you're going to get beyond the clouds a bit. But at the right distance, animated clouds can really add a nice realistic sense to the view of the Earth. Okay, I'm going to go back to layers and switch off some of these interesting layers that I've added because I want to get back to the typical view in Google Earth. So far, we've looked at how to navigate around Google Earth and then also the layers that we can add or take off of the Google Earth experience. In this next segment of Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course, we are going to take it to a new level and use Google Earth not as a tool just for looking at the world and learning about it, but as a creative tool. We're going to learn how to build a Google Earth tour, and we'll also look at some other creative tools that are part of it. So let's say I'm a Spanish teacher and I want to create a tour of all of the Spanish-speaking countries and their capital cities. How would I go about doing that? The first thing I would do is make sure that this panel at the left is available. If it's hidden, then it may be necessary to click this button to expand the panel. You can also click and drag these two bars to make the panel wider or more narrow. But you're going to need this panel as you create a Google Earth tour. Next, what I'm going to do is click here on New, and I'm going to create a project. There's a couple of different ways I could do it. I could create a project with my Google Earth tour and just save it as a local KML file on my computer. There's a couple of downsides to this. For one, what if you're using a Chromebook to create your Google Earth tour? There may not be enough storage on your computer to create a lot of files. KML files are very small, but still, you may not want to get in the habit of saving files on a Chromebook. The other downside to creating a local KML file is it's stored just on that one computer. If you want to share it with someone else, you would have to send them the file. It can just be a big hassle. So I highly recommend this option, create a Google Drive project. So I'll click Create, and a project that's going to become my Google Earth tour has been created. It's untitled right now, so I'm going to click this edit button to give it a title, and I'll call this Capital Cities of the Spanish-Speaking World. I could click to add a description, and then I could click Save. So now I have a project that actually exists in Google Drive, but it's being loaded in to Google Earth. So kind of a cool connection between those two tools. Now all I need to do is fly to a few places in Google Earth and save them. So here in the Google Earth search bar, I'm just going to type in Argentina, Buenos Aires, and it flies me there. I get a little information about Buenos Aires here at the right, and then I can just choose to save this location to my project. And there it is. Now that informational page that appeared here, that was information provided by Google. If I want to, I can substitute my own information for that default information from Google. So I'm not going to do that, but I could click Update and type in my own description, my own information about this location. I do have some other options that I can choose for this place mark that's been added to my project. For example, I can change the size of the place mark. I could make it extra large, I could make it really small, or any of these other options. I'm going to go with just large. I can also change the color coding. So right now, Buenos Aires is yellow. It might be more appropriate to make it blue. Let's try that. And then I can also click More Settings to change the label style. I could make the label extra large, really to draw attention to it, and I kind of like that, so I think I'll keep it. I could also change the color of the label. Making it match would make sense. If I click this switch, it turns off the label completely. So let's say you want your audience, whether it be students or some other audience, to have to guess what the location is. You might want to turn that off so they don't see the answer. Now, if I browse down just a bit, you can see that there's a camera view. I can adjust the heading. Maybe I want it to be 5.0. Tap enter, and it may adjust it slightly, the camera view. I could also change the tilt, tap enter, the range, the latitude, longitude, even the altitude. And then another option is I can zoom in or use these tools here to adjust the tilt or the heading or whatever it might be. And then I could click here to capture this view. As soon as I clicked capture this view, all of these numbers updated with the current view. I like that better than typing in exact numbers because I don't always know what a good number would be for the different views that I would like. So use this capture this view button to really get the look that you want for this place mark. Okay, I can click view to see what it's really going to look like. I've got my label, I've got this informational text and image to add additional context and information for this place mark. And I can click these arrows to get even more photos in this case. Okay, so that's my first stop in my Google Earth tour. Let's fly to the next location. So I'm going to search for Chile, Santiago, and it's flying me to Santiago, Chile. There it is. And I would just repeat the same process again. Once again, I think I want to tilt it to get a different view, maybe change the heading a bit, and then I'll go here and save to project, and I'll go down here and click this button, capture this view. All of these numbers update. I've got some basic information about Santiago, Chile, but I could update it with my own if I want to. So I would just repeat this process over and over to put in a bunch of capitals and build out my Google Earth tour. Give me a second to do so, and then I'll resume the video. Okay, so I've added many of the Spanish-speaking capitals and countries. Not all of them, but many of them. And of course, I could have color-coded each of the place marks and the text labels and more. So now that I have this list of locations all together in one project, look what I can do. I can just go here to the right and click Slideshow to show off this Google Earth tour. I'm flown to the first stop in the tour, in this case, Buenos Aires. And then if I click this arrow here, it will take me to the next stop in the tour, Santiago, Chile. In addition to clicking this arrow, you can also use the right arrow key on the keyboard to advance to the next tour stop. The back arrow takes you back to the previous one. So it works similar to how PowerPoint works or Google Slides, and it should also work with presentation remotes. And if you'd like to own a presentation remote, by far the best one I've ever used is the Logitech Spotlight remote. This is what it looks like. It's just fantastic. It makes it so you can zoom in on anything on your computer to show to your audience. You can also darken the screen except for the part that you want to highlight. The Logitech Spotlight has a timer feature and more. If you find the Logitech Spotlight to be a little bit too pricey for you, but you still want a quality presentation remote, Logitech has other presenter remotes that are also excellent, but don't have all the same features of the Spotlight. But whether I have a presenter remote or just use the arrow keys or the mouse, I can advance through my Google Earth tour and show this off to my students. Now, better yet, why not have your students create their own Google Earth tours and then share those with you? Turn them in as homework. It's a great exercise and activity. Now, as we go from location to location in Google Earth, notice that we are getting the informational text here at the right and also some images that you can browse through. So I love that feature. And remember that you can replace the text here with your own text. So you could ask the students to do a write-up of each of these capitals and talk about some of the customs, culture, the foods, the history of each of the countries. Okay, I'm going to stop this Google Earth tour for now. I'm going to click this arrow in the upper left corner to exit the slideshow. I mentioned that you could have students turn in their Google Earth tour or slideshow. How would they do that? The way they can do that is by clicking here in the upper right on the share button. Google Earth is warning me that if I share this Google Earth project, that people will see my name and this icon here. So as long as I'm okay with that, I can click continue, and then it brings up the same basic share features that we get in Google Drive. So whenever we're sharing a Google Doc, a Google Slide, a Google Sheet, we get these same basic options. I can add specific people by putting in their email addresses or their names in some cases to add them as collaborators. They can help me build this Google Earth tour. Once you've put in their name or email address, you can stipulate whether they're an editor or just a viewer of your Google Earth tour. But sometimes an even better option than adding specific people or groups is going down here to General Access and changing it from restricted to anyone with the link. If you do this, it will make this basically a public Google Earth slideshow or tour that anyone can see. Now, how will they ever find it? They probably won't find it unless you copy the link and provide it to people. I'll click Done to show you what the link will do. If I click to add a new tab in my browser, I can paste in that URL, tap Enter, and this is what it looks like when people go to my Google Earth tour. It takes them to the first location right away. They get the information with the view that I selected, and then they can advance to the next one and the next one. And so you can provide this experience to people, or students could create these Google Earth tours and then turn them into you by clicking share and either adding you as a person to see this Google Earth tour, or they could just change it to anyone with the link, copy the link, and send it to you. Notice that you can also switch this from viewer to editor. Just be careful with that, because that would mean that anyone at all that has the link could make changes. They could maybe even delete your own Google Earth place marks. So you could get into some trouble with that. So I'm going to change this back to viewer, copy the link, click done. So now I just need to send that link out. I could email it to people. I could post it to my LMS, learning management system, text it to people, whatever. Now there are a couple of other different types of things that you can add to your Google Earth tours, but I'm going to save those for the next segment of Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course. In this current segment, I've taught you how to create your own Google Earth slideshow tours. Okay, in this final segment of Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course, I'm going to show you the remaining tools, some of which can be used in your Google Earth tours. So if you look here in Google Earth, wherever you are in the map, pretty much, you have some tools here at the top that you can utilize. You're already familiar with place marks. Whenever we do a search and I save a place to my project, a place mark is added. There may be times, though, when you just want to add a place mark without having a specific project. You can just click Add Place Mark and then click on the map to place that place mark. In this case, because I do have a project, it's already added to that project. I can then name the place mark and do all of the same things I showed earlier. I'm going to X out of that. Let's move on to the next tool, which is a path or polygon. Look how cool this is. If I turn on path or polygon, I can then map out, let's say, a path that some explorers followed as they traveled through Chile, Peru, Bolivia, etc. Now, I'm just making this up, but you could very easily map out more or less a path that a group followed. Now, this is also called a polygon tool. Why? Because if you click it, you can click and drag to connect the different parts of this shape. And if you close the shape, it's created a polygon. So this is a way to outline an area or space on the map. When I'm done, I can click Save to Project if I want, and it's added here. I should name it though. Now, if we look above the search bar in Google Earth, there is an Add menu. If you click on Add, you get a couple of additional tools even. I can add a slide. This slide is just going to have some text and a description. So I can type in something here and then type some very key information that people absolutely must have. I can use some of these formatting tools and even create a hyperlink. So I could select part of my text, click Add Link, and then put in the URL that I want that to link to, click OK, and I've created a hyperlink. I can also add some media. By clicking here, I can upload an image or other type of media, or I can add a photo or video that's online by just putting in the link to that photo or video. When I'm done, I can click View to see what it's going to look like when we get to that part of my Google Earth project. All right, there's one other type of thing that you can add from this menu, and that is a title overlay. So I'm just going to type out the word hello. Let's see how this works. I can change the camera view, the latitude, longitude, all of that. I can add media, add a description, and then if I click view, you'll see what it looks like. It's just going to say hello, basically, when we get to that part of the project. Okay, now to help me organize these parts of my slideshow or project or Google Earth tour, I could add folders, okay, and I could click and drag and put the folder where I want it to be. Maybe I'm going to put my polygon and my slide and my label inside that folder just to organize it a little better, and I can click and drag and put that at the end of my slideshow if I want to. Okay, the last few tools that you need to know about out are found here, and also they're found here in the Tools menu. We do have a ruler, and this is amazing. We can use a ruler to measure giant distances on the Earth with very good precision. Okay, so I'm measuring this out in meters. If I want to, I can click here though and change to feet and inches and miles and that kind of thing. It gives me a total length of this entire path that I'm mapping out. I'm going to click done. If I want to, I can save this measurement to my project and it's added right in. There are a couple of other options that you can explore if you're interested in them. You can generate building designs and explore solar feasibility. This is amazing. You can just click to draw out a site. It can't be too big though, I've learned that. But if I draw out a site, it says that's too big. So I'd have to shrink this down. But what it'll do, if I get it small enough, is I can generate a building design. But it's going to use this tool called Delve. So I'm not going to show that in any sort of detail, but if you're interested in either of these options, that's where you would go to check them out. So those are the additional tools that we have in Google Earth. So I hope this video has been helpful to you. As you continue to use Google Earth, if you ever need help or have questions, notice that you can click here on Help. There are some keyboard shortcuts that can be very useful as you're using Google Earth. There's also just a Help menu that you can click. You can do some searches for the problem that you have or what you want to learn how to do, and it will guide you. In addition, I want you to see that when you're done with a project like this, you can click File and export your work as a KML file on your computer. So even though at the beginning of this project, I decided to make it a Google Drive project, which I think was a good decision, I can still export it also as a KML file on this device. So I love that you can do it both ways if you want to. You can also import other people's KML files or KMZ files. Speaking of my Google Drive project, here I am in Google Drive, and look, there is the project I've been working on. It's here on my homepage. If I go to Recent, it'll also show up there, but I can double click on that at any time to go from Google Drive right into my Google Earth project, Slideshow. Really, it's a Google Earth tour. So that is everything you need to know about Google Earth. I've taken you from beginner to really to intermediate and then to an advanced Google Earth user all in one video. That's why I like to call this Google Earth for Beginners, the complete course. It takes you from start to finish in Google Earth. If you want to learn even more about Google Earth, here are some books that I recommend that will help you do that. Also, there's so much more that Google has to offer beyond Google Earth, so please watch my other videos. I have one on Google My Maps, on the regular Google Maps, Google Drive, Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides, and so much more. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you found this tutorial to be helpful. If you did, please like, follow, and subscribe. And when you do, click the bell and you'll be notified when I post another video. If you'd like to support my channel, the best way to do that is to become a channel member, but you could also click the thanks button below the video. You could support me through my Patreon account or by buying channel merch, and you'll see information about those options in the description below the video.